Hello, everybody, and welcome to another night of reading. Hopefully, you guys can hear me, so definitely let me know if you don't, because then I have to figure out how to make sure you guys do end up hearing me. So, we are another week. We have survived a Monday. I hate Mondays, and I am currently reading two five-star predictions. So, life is good, hopefully. If these don't end up disappointing me. But so, yeah, as you can tell from the title underneath my name. The one that I will be mainly focusing on during these sprints is Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. But I am reading two books at the same time. This is actually book 4 for Gamenightathon. But I'm reading two massive ones this week. So I don't know whether I'll actually be able to finish them still this week or whether they'll have to carry over a little bit into next week. But yeah, really, like I've started this one. I am 60 pages in, more or less, and I've really been enjoying it so far. But of course, I'm almost nowhere. So I mean, how much can I really say about how much I'm enjoying this? Hello, Tufty. Hi, the hi campers. It's threatening to rain outside just now, so I'm indoors this evening. The spots of gentle rain we have just now are too much for books outside. Nope, no, not happening. Yeah, of course, it started raining the moment that I left the office in order to cycle back home. So I stepped out. I was like, wait, is that a drop? Those are drops. Drops are getting higher in consistency. So I ended up taking the rain trousers out as well for my ride home, which was good because it wasn't raining very heavily, but it was just like raining really consistently. Hey, Kitty. You are live in video and audio. Perfect. Hello, Josephine. How are you? Hey, Natalie. I am still here reading Secret Book at 1. Haha. I am so looking forward to finding out what your secret books are. Currently eating dinner. Hello, Larissa. I was watching Patrick Reed's earlier, and he was saying the hardback edition of that Blood Over Bright Haven is a bit rare now. Really, but like this one or the other cover, because I don't actually know which edition this is, but when I was looking for Blood Over Bright Haven and an edition that I wanted, I preferred this one to the other cover that is out there, the one that is much more prevalent. And I found this one quite easy, I think, maybe on Amazon. Not entirely sure how I got this one, but I'm not sure whether this is like a Canadian, US, whatever type of edition it is, because it was just like readily available at that point in time. I didn't get it through some sort of like special edition website or anything like that. But if it is now somewhat more limited, then all the better, I guess, for my collection. Though I am hoping that I'm going to love this book so much that I will never want to let go of it. Presently making my dinner with some pages of Crystal Matar's Legacy of Brick and Bone to turn afterwards. It's a brick, but I'm in the last 2/5 of it. Nice. Hello, Ewald. How are you? I'm tidying and will have dinner while listening to Frankenstein in the first sprint. Yes, final leg of it. You are almost through with it. Have you already rolled for your second book? When I cycled to work, I just went with shorts and didn't worry about rain or putting on waterproofs. I got too hot, so a bit of rain was often quite welcome. Yeah, depends, it's not the weather to be getting too hot on the bicycle, unfortunately. I mean, I say unfortunately, but I also really don't like the heat all that much. So, and I have an e-bike, so it's not like I'm putting in that much effort, because if I needed to put in that much effort, I would not be cycling to work because I hate cycling. I might try reading. That's an idea, but anything else goes. I was so hesitating about whether I was going to move this whole setup into the office and potentially do some Elden Ring there during one of these sprints. But I guess laziness won out. And then I was just like, oh, but then I have to figure out. Like, then I have to put my laptop somewhere there where I don't barely have any room to put it. And then in the talking bits, I have to like turn towards you guys because like there's no real room to set this up except for like behind me. So I was like, okay, let's just not do that. I will be listening to Rouge by Mona Awad while cleaning the kitchen. Then I'll switch to the Bitter Twins. Nice. Rouge is also one that I really want to try. The mud was a bit of a drawback on the bicycle when it's raining. Yeah, definitely. And just the rain itself. But like rain, it kind of depends. This was like nice rain because it was just like a drizzle, a consistent drizzle, and because it's warm enough. But when it's like really coming down, that's when it's of course not that great, even if you only have like a 20-minute commute. 70 pages into Ordinary Monsters. Goal for tonight is to get to 100 plus pages. Yeah, I am 100 plus pages into the other book, the one that you guys voted on. And I might still listen to like a chapter or maybe even two of that still tonight. But those are like really long like chapters. So it's like almost, I mean, depending on the chapter, it's like almost a full sprint section that would go to that. Yes, I rolled 5 times at the beginning. This is my second, and I finished the fifth. Ah, yeah, right. You had said that I finished the fifth already, so 3 and 4 are waiting. What's the next prompt? And have you already picked out your book for it? I'm just laying in bed already, gonna listen to a bit more of the Carol Hunt, I think. Enjoy. Of course, you can enjoy, Alex. Feel free. I was potting peas earlier. The guest cat was visiting at the time, so I sat down on the floor beside her. She found the pop and tear of ripping pots apart to be quite unnerving. Unnerving, really? Wow, how loud is it? I also rolled 5 times and finished 2. I did start the other 3. Okay, sorry. My cat puts her claws into me, and I'm slightly allergic to cats, so now my arm is itching. And that, in case you heard it or are hearing it, is the fighting of my cats. Yes. Let's give Fate a little bit of a refuge here on my lap while I distract Buffy. So you said you rolled 5 times, finished 2, did start the other 3 already. Yeah, I am also constantly reading multiple at the same time. I am officially reading 2 for this readathon, but I did also start like a graphic novel already. And in principle, I started Kushiel's Mercy before the start of the month, so I could also occasionally be reading some of that. Yeah, the pop, tear, and plop of dropping the piece into the glass jar was all unusual noises, so she sort of jumped a bit when I did it. It's like, what the hell are you doing, human? Just act normal. Yeah. Cat noises in the background for you guys. I know you guys enjoy them sometimes. But yeah, I am also reading, as I said, another book, which you guys have not guessed, even though it was just in my TBR, and that is The Labyrinth's Heart. So I've started that one. I am over 100 pages into it because of my commute this morning. Cats, please. This is what happens when you have 2 cats and you're just one person, and then they all just want to attack your lap together. Like, yes. Eh, my next is gonna be Yellow Tavern or Bar. Gonna read Mom. I hope it'll fit a prom. I don't know that one. Yes, always love to hear all the cat talk. Yeah. No, I've got Fate's tail is like right where I need to press the button. Only cat noises in this house is purring at the moment, or she just doesn't meow. Because my cats meow, as you well know. The guest cat sits by the patio. How do you say it in English? Patio, by the patio door, looking out upon the garden. So when I wander in to grab my iPod and change podcasts, I have to wander in gently, otherwise she runs off into the room. I started Funeral Days by Dorian Box today. Enjoy. What type of genre is? That's a brick. I'm reading 2 bricks of books. So Blood of a Bright Haven is somewhere in the 500. Labyrinth's Heart is somewhere in the 300, and it's 300 in the 600, and it's like the big paperback edition. So then it always is like a brick as a consequence. Cats scratching cheek on the corner of my book, iPad, foot, etc. is very common. Yeah, Buffy is also like a scratcher. She loves the corners of books so much. I have taken up the language of meow meow to the guest cat. Sorry, white, so tavern bar, not yellow. Too many books on go. Well, no worries. When you said patio there, you sounded dead posh. Nice. At the moment, but Bussy rarely meows. However, she does sometimes tell me that she's going to use a litter box now, so I can prepare to clean it. Mine just wait until I clean it to then start using it. It's their favorite. It's like a nice clean litter box, I guess. Which screen is my screen for? No, not that. I feel like I have a different layout normally for the screen sharing. Do I do it like that? I guess. Um, all right. So let's go for our first sprint, guys. See you guys in 40 minutes. Bye. Hello. How did we do? I actually don't know. I am on page 98, no, 99, and I started 69 or something like that, I think. So 30 pages, which is quite a lot for me, but like the font on this edition is quite big actually, so that does quite make sense. Like, I don't know whether you'll be able to see that. Ugh, no. This is already a little bit of a like I'm gonna call it annoying read, but it's not annoying. Can that thing just move to the other side? Uh, Maybe not overfade. Sure. All right. So, because there's like, so this book has a character who is like the first woman to ever make it into, like, she is in a sort of like magic academy, basically, and she's the first one who's kind of like voted into like the higher ranks of the academy. And then, so a lot of misogyny is of course occurring there, and then but then on the other hand there's also like a person that she has like through circumstances has hired as her assistant, who's basically a janitor who is like a different um like from a different culture, and people very much look down upon them, and she's also like very much like indoctrinated in those stereotypes and that way of looking at those people. So a lot of misogyny and a lot of sort of like discrimination to deal with in the beginning. So yay, let's hope that that disappears a little bit. Where was I here, I think, depending on when you'll drop the next star prompt, I guess around the 10th, but hopefully soon. Next book is my audiobook, A Dance with the Dragons. Rain is predicted for Wednesday, so no walking, but puzzle. Yay! Yeah, I have filmed star prompt number 2. I also know what star prompt number 2 is, but it will drop around the 10th normally, yes. A mystery one. Okay, yeah. That's a genre that I don't really follow that much. So I also don't really know many of the titles that are like popular in there, or even just like in fantasy, I would know like some of the more sort of like, like less popular stuff as well. But yeah, mystery is a total mystery to me. Hello, just got home from a walk, ready for some sprints. Nice. Hey Raf, slightly late going to sprint through the last bit of Dreams of Steel by Glenn Clook now. Hope you enjoyed. Hello, Judith. Tough to read 0 pages. What were you doing? Did you still have to have like your dinner, or were you just doing something else? Oopsie, fell asleep. The alarm did woke me up. Yeah, I'm also kind of battling sleep a little bit. I did have to, like, I was kind of falling, like snoozing off from time to time. Had dinner and got distracted. 0 pages. It seems like we're doing very well here so far. Jeroen is even saying the same thing twice. Me and seeing clearly Nason. I'm trying to understand what that's refer to. Did we say something earlier? Otherwise, or is this a book? That would also be an option, of course. Read 25 pages of Tunnel of Bones. That's the V. Schwab one, right? I made dinner for the cats and me and read 12 pages in Secret Book. We are having some villain trials. Villain trials. That sounds interesting. Secret book with villain trials. So I really don't know enough about villain books clearly to be like, I did make dinner though. So you did indeed make dinner. A Thai red curry with garden veggies, a bowl of cumin seed rice, and a yogurt flatbread. Sounds delicious indeed. I listened to 2 chapters. I read 2 full pages of You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. So I'm guessing that's also sort of like a mystery thriller. Read 14 pages, I think. Good going. I also watched the Plot 37 channel on Gardening Tube start to plant out their tomato plants while I was devouring my dinner. I have yet to buy ivy to replace my dead ivy on the balconies, but that is really something that needs to be happening as well because it's looking very sparse over on my balcony at the moment. Finished watching a YouTube documentary on Terence McKenna and got a couple of chapters in Dreams of Steel done. Gotta finish it next sprint. Nice. Indeed, Tunnel of Bones is by Victoria Schwab, the second book in her middle grade series. I will have to finish off the Plotter 7 Tomato House episode later. I've also started watching season 1 of House of Dragons. I'm 4 episodes in so far. I haven't watched that, and I'm not entirely sure whether I want to watch it because I tend to like when something is inspired or a spin-off of of something original, I tend to not really enjoy it. Mainly, like the thing that I mainly dislike about those things is that they all too often feel the need to refer to the original as, like the audience that basically made the spin-off possible, or that like got people to invest the money to make the spin-off, in order to kind of appease that audience. I guess we are like constantly referring to the original in order to have these sort of like Easter eggs for people, and I personally dislike that the most. I cannot think of a single example now, but a few times in which spin-offs have worked for me has been when they completely ignore, or to the most extent possible, ignore the existence of the original thing. I'm gonna give like a bad example here now, which is like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The first movie was a real big surprise for me because it barely mentions like Harry Potter or anything of that. Like it's of course prior to the existence of Harry Potter in that world, but it barely mentioned anything of that world. You just knew that this was a guy who went to the same school and the name of Dumbledore was dropped, and then other stuff that you find out in the Harry Potter series also happens there, but there was like barely any overlap, and that made that movie work surprisingly well for me. And then the sequels happened. Then I just dropped out because after movie two, I was like, no, this is not how I like to see my shows go. So yeah, that's why I tend to steer clear of anything that's like a spin-off or closely linked to something that I've previously enjoyed. And to some extent, the Cosmere sometimes frustrates me as well because it also does that. It also has those Easter egg stuff. Anyone here doing Summerween? I'm not, but I'm really enjoying all the vlogs, all about the spooky books. There are definitely people here who are doing Summerween. Judith is doing Summerween, I think, and a few others who are on the Discord of Denise, which her channel is a Chaos in the Enchanted Forest, I want to say. A few over them are doing Summerween because they have like a Summerween channel over on her Discord. A horror book. Okay. I'm 2 episodes behind right now. So half an hour of Plot 37, 2 episodes of House of the Dragons, and a few pages of the book takes me to bedtime. The evenings vanish so quickly. I know, right? I was like, because I arrived late at work today and I didn't want to use any flex. So I had to stay at work until like 5:15. So by the time I got here and had my dinner, filmed a clip because I did the unboxing for my broken binding order that arrived in my vlog. It was like, okay, I have like half an hour before these sprints start, meaning that I cannot Elden Ring tonight, which is to some extent like painful because I'm like, I want to Elden Ring so badly these days. But it is also good to have a detox day off of it. And maybe this detox day can become a detox month. I don't think so. I think I'll probably definitely be Elden Ringing tomorrow. I'm just waiting for that next point in time in which I can jump off of Elden Ring and just focus on reading again. House of Dragon is taking up too much HD space on my DVR, so it needs to go. You still have a DVR? Nice. I don't have that at all. Like my parents probably still have one. But yeah, I don't think I know many people who still have that nowadays. It's kind of based on a history book set in the world, but his spin-off doesn't reference Game of Thrones because it takes place a couple of 100 years before. Yeah, so it's kind of, I guess, um like the Fantastic Beast reference then. And then it kind of depends on, because Ring of Power also is before Lord of the Rings, but there was so much overlap there that just doesn't work for me. So then it kind of depends on whether it's like clearly building up to Game of Thrones or whether it is characters that have almost no link to the characters in Game of Thrones. Eh. I don't think I pay enough attention to these shows to catch all the Easter eggs. Yes, doing Summerween. I don't watch any shows. Got enough other ways to waste my time and mind. Yeah, I get you. Sometimes it's a good thing that I'm like, I don't have the patience for shows anymore. And I feel like with me and TV shows, it's definitely streaming service evolution. Back in the days when you had to like wait a week for every episode, it just worked better for me and my sort of like brain, I guess, because then I had to stay on track. Because the moment you would like get off track, you would have to catch up in order to be able to fit a schedule or something like that. And now, and like if you had to stay, what I mean by that is like you had to stay on track, or otherwise all of a sudden you would find yourself like having to catch up 5 episodes, for example. And now I feel like I'm always in that situation with the show because it drops everything at the beginning, or like it drops most of it, sometimes just half of the season. But it always drops like a huge ton of episodes in one go. So you're always behind from the get go, like that's how my brain sees it. My brain is like, oh shit, I have all of these episodes that I need to watch in one go all of a sudden. Whereas before it was just like evenly spread out. And even though I had so many shows that I was watching back in those days that I had to keep on track like every single night of the week, more or less, it still worked better for me because then it was just like, okay, yeah, I've watched that episode of Supernatural, so I'm up to speed. And it was less overwhelming than if now a full season of Supernatural were to drop and all of a sudden I've got all these episodes to watch. And in reality, I see this happening all the time where I then watch the first episode, and maybe if it was just like one episode per week, it would, the next week I would be like, oh yeah, sure, let me watch another one because, enough time has passed in between that. I don't mind giving it some more of my time. But for some reason, when I have access to like 7 episodes already, if that first one doesn't catch my attention, it's more difficult for me to go into the second one for some reason. So this whole new way of working just doesn't work for my brain apparently, because there are so many shows that I've watched one episode of, or like half an episode even, that just because of knowing that there's so many episodes out there, and that they'll be there forever, and that basically there is not sort of this like schedule, this ideal scheduling to keep up with, just makes me not do it. I'm doing Summerween as well. Nice. I like the reference in Star Trek The Next Generation, but it was a couple of guest appearances and was released like 2 decades later. So, okay. I've had to DVR for decades now. I had a TiVo back in the days. I'm not entirely sure what that is. So I'm just used to it. I don't honestly know where to stream some shows from, and Amazon include adverts nowadays. Yeah, I no longer have, oh yeah, I do have, like, Amazon is Prime, right? I do still have Prime. I actually never check it. I basically still keep it because it's just like €3 and my niece watches it. Oh yeah, I'm years behind on Walking Dead, and season 2 of umpteen shows are firing off just now, hence why the DVR is filling up again. I don't keep up too well. Yeah, The Walking Dead is a show that I didn't start when it came out, and then I did start watching it at one point in time, and I had like the DVDs through the library, I think. And then at one point I just stopped. And now it's just like, okay, I actually have started again at one point, but I just like, then it just became like, okay, there's too much to watch. So I just stop in that case. When the shows build up on my DVR, they are out of sight, out of mind until the HDD fills up. But being behind a booktube is much more stressful for me. Yeah, I've signed up to so many, like I'm subscribed to so many channels that I'm never like there's no world in which I'm up to date. So to that extent, it's just like a sampling here and there for me. But it does like annoy me then when like people I know have new episodes and I'm not watching them. So I would like to do better there. There are so many shows I've given up trying to keep up, but I'm seeing a lot of reaction episodes to House of the Dragons appearing on BookTube right now. Of course, yeah, it's the time for it, I guess. I binge watch series all the time. I also skip in between lots of different series. Yeah, no, most of my time now is reading and gaming kind of depends on the time. Sometimes it's also more movies and reading. Reading is most of the time the main focus, though there was a month somewhere this year in which it was definitely gaming. Um, but I mean, it was definitely gaming mainly because I just really went all out on gaming for like 3 days or so, or like maybe a week, in which I just did so much gaming that it went like overboard. But I have been seeing quite some trailers recently, and there are quite a few movies that I want to see. So maybe I'll get off the Elden Ring bandwagon and just jump into the movies train. I'm still at season 3 of Walking Dead, which would make it HBO Tube and not BookTube, but who cares these days? I never watched the last season of Bones. It's so stupid. I will never rewatch all of that to get there. Exactly. Like, if I don't know what my brain was doing there, but it was struggling. If you have to go through all of that just to get to the final episode, it's just like, what? It's like, even though I really, really like Supernatural, I will never make it back to like season. I don't even know where I signed off of it. Seven, eight, maybe. I'll never make it through all of that again just to see how it ended up, especially knowing that a lot of people found it to be disappointing. But I found everything after season 5 to be disappointing already, so maybe it would actually be better. But I'm never making it through all of that again. It's like keeping up with book series. If I stop, I feel like I need to restart. Yeah. I mean, with book series, it's also like you have to reread if you are keeping up with them in the moment because there's so much time in between them. So, actually, the ideal there is to have a series that is already finished so that you can read them like a book per month or per 2 months to have the story still fresh in your minds. But on the other hand, I also like that aspect of like being up to date with them and then less like anticipating the next one. I love that sort of like feeling of waiting for the next one to drop, which is less when you haven't started the series yet. It's been so long ago that that I might just rewatch the beginning because I do like the first season of The Walking Dead. You mean, or of Supernatural? I hope to get back to the video games more in the winter months. Summer is for reading outside when the weather is nice. It's still dribbling down on outside. Here it stopped, I think. Last month I binge watched the whole The Office series, US version. I've never seen either version of The Office, I have to admit. Bones is so fun to watch. Bones, you were talking about, I guess. Yeah, that's really just not my type. I don't like procedurals. I stopped watching Supernatural after Steven's season 5 and started again with season 10, and I didn't miss anything. I can completely see how you wouldn't have missed anything skipping all of that. I jumped off at the end of season 7. Don't really know why. Yeah, I don't really remember where I jumped off. All of those storylines were just a little bit like not that interesting. It's why I haven't read A Song of Ice and Fire since Dance of Dragons came out. I know I'll have to reread again when Winds of Winter comes out, anyways. Exactly, like, even though the TV show is there, like, there are so many differences with the TV show and the books that, we would definitely have to revisit. But then the question is, do you revisit both A Dance with Dragons and A Feast of Crows? Because both of them had like the same timeline, right? But different characters. Or would you just do A Dance with Dragons? Because I feel like I would probably have to reread both of those to have the entire sort of like where do we stand thing. But that is assuming there will ever be a Winds of Winter out. TiVo is a very old DVR. I used to extract TV episodes from it to save on my network drive, thinking I'd rewatch them sometimes. Fast forward 2 decades, and there's so much telebox, so much. Yeah, you never have the time for those things that you set aside, right? I did discover Dexter as a book series, so I might read those first and then rewatch the series again. I've watched a few seasons of that one, and I really liked it. Yeah, I've never watched that. I'm assuming that the books were actually first, and that the TV shows are inspired on them. It's very rare for it to be the other way around, like, right? Liked, yeah. Ooh, I have a few of the Dexter books, about four of them, I think. I haven't read them though. I don't tend to do procedural crime mysteries simply because too many books. I don't have maybe use filters. Yeah. In my vlog, you will see that I've broken one of my rules when it comes to that. But so let's go into another sprint. See you guys in 40. Good luck. Hello. Let me just set the timer again. Uh, wow, time is flying because next sprint is already the last sprint for tonight. How did you guys do? I read about 20 pages, I think, in Blood of a Bright Haven and Labyrinth's Heart. I just started listening to a few minutes ago, so not entirely sure. Uh, yeah, around 8 pages more or less. So good progress. Uh, wait, here. Okay. Kitty? I just recently saw someone dislike the first Dexter book a lot. The ending of that show just ruined it for me. Yeah, I never watched a single episode of that actually. I'll reread all 5 books yet again. Been reading A Song of Ice and Fire since 2004 or 2005 and have read the early ones multiple times. Yeah, I think I read A Song of Ice and Fire when all books were out. And I think the show was also. I probably read the first book at the time that the show was coming out to watch the show then. And I originally really disliked book one. It's only book three or so that got me convinced. Um, Winds of Winter will come out. Sure. I'm really not that certain anymore whether I believe that. I mean, I'm guessing it will come out, but like, how much longer? It's already been 10 years, right? Since the last one, maybe even longer at this point in time. So, how much longer will we have to wait? Hello, good evening. I can't stay, but just wanted to say hi. Thank you for dropping by. We're at 0 pages again. Sometimes it's just like that. Sometimes there's just no progress to be had in terms of rereading. I did, however, put some vanilla ice cream over a portion of strawberry and almond crumble that I made last night. That makes me think that I might want to get some pistachio ice cream in the next sprint. Just read one more chapter of my book, but I'm getting so tired, so I'll probably go to bed after the chatty bit. I get that. I went back to watching Plot 37, planned out loads of tomato varieties, discussing each in turn. Then I realized I should be taking notes, so I rewound back to the start. I read 25 pages this time. Something very dramatic happened in Secret Book. The time loop didn't restart. What do you mean with the time loop didn't restart? 8 pages till 102. Made some decent progress with sprints. Nice. I listened to another chapter of Rouge while updating my book journal. Also passed the 200-page mark of The Bitter Twins. Nice. My copies of The Song of Ice and Fire are mass market paperbacks, which show their age. I only read book one recently, though. A friend at work and I decided to recommend a book to each other to read. I don't have A Song of Ice and Fire physically. Like, I borrowed them from the library, I guess, when I read them, and maybe like by the end I was reading them as ebooks. But I definitely started with the library editions for that. He picked A Song of Ice and Fire. I picked Revelation Space by Alistair Reynolds, which he didn't like. Made some progress in Frankenstein. Probably gonna finish in the next sprint if I'm not falling asleep, that is. How are you liking Frankenstein, by the way? Just a hint for the book, the time loop thing. It's what happened in the book. The time loop. So, wait. What hints did we have? I've already forgotten what the first thing was that you said. So, secret book with a time loop. Okay, I love time loops. And you said something else earlier. So, just trying to read all of your all of your comments here as quickly as possible. No. Where did you talk about it? You talked about it, though. Okay. Villain trials and time loop. No, the only time loop thing that I can think of now is like the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, right? Then, nah, cannot think of it. Well, You were helping me out, but of course I did not go the easy route here. Finished Dreams of Steel, started Bleak Seasons because Navola only comes out tomorrow. Yeah, I am not reading Navola before it comes out then. But Sky on Fire comes out tomorrow, and I pre-ordered that one. So that should then also be making its way to me or to the bookstore in any case. Though, it's like ah ah yeah, good one, Tufty. How to Lose the Time War. I did not like that book in the end, which is very unfortunate. I like the plot of it, but not the writing style. I can also say it's I know. It's not How to Lose a Time War. If it's a new release and funny. Oh, I think I know. No. Does that have villain trials? Not that I'm aware of, right? Does it also have something like The Husbands? Which I assume has somewhat of that time loop concept. Hmm. Hello, hey Charlotte. I'm on yet another reread of Brandon Sanderson's books, hoping to get to Stormlight Archive this time. So, where are you? What are you reading now? I pre-ordered Navola. I hope the audio is available before I go to the gym. Yeah, I've read Time War last fall. I didn't get on with Time War either. Not liking Revelations space is objectively wrong. Well, I haven't read it yet, but it's good to see that you guys are eye to eye on that one. Time War went way over my head. I mean, I cannot even fully remember at this point in time whether it went over my head. I just mainly remember it being such flowery writing, which I hate. So it was just like the writing style was not conducive to me paying attention to it. I did love the concept of it, and I think that this, like, if they were to, for example, make this into a movie or a TV show, I would absolutely love that probably because that gets over that whole sort of like writing style issue. I reread Elantris last month, and now I'm on the Final Empire. Great. For time travel, I highly recommend The Light Brigade by Cameron Hurley. Nice, because I like time travel. Secret book is whatever the opposite of flowery writing is. Ah, perfect. A time loop book that is recent and funny. But then it has villain trials, so it has to be like villain has to be something like superhero-esque or like really fantasy or sci-fi, I guess it can also be. Last time I made it up to Shadows of Self. Oh yeah, but I understand not making it past there. And I would personally say that you can start Stormlight without Era 2 Mistborn. You probably need, and need is saying a lot because you don't need, but if you are somebody who wants all of those Easter eggs, you probably need Bands of Mourning by the time you get to Rhythm of War, I want to say. Um, and I also did not get that Easter egg. Like people explained it, and then I was like, "Ah, okay." But I'm also like somebody who I don't really make an image of characters in my mind, and I don't have like every detail about a character like locked into my vault. So when you have to read these sort of like subtle clues to see that one character is actually a character you already know, then a lot of time that goes over my head. So the actual link between Mistborn 2 and like some part of Stormlights, I wouldn't have seen if I didn't like afterwards was like, so why did I need to read this book? And then saw the reason why. All but one of my July book releases are available right now, but I have to wait until the end of the month for the final book on my July wishlist to arrive. The month long wait is agonizing. It can be like that sometimes. put Nick to bed and made some coffee. Nice. You're always drinking coffee so late. I was like contemplating doing it right before sprints, but that's like the latest I can go. It's not as bad as a month-long book buying ban. Those are brutal. Not too sure about Frankenstein. I'm intrigued by the concept and overall message, but I'm not a fan of how it's told. But unsure how much about this is the German translation. I feel like it probably isn't the German translation. I think Frankenstein is very different from like what people expected a lot of the times, and even if you like the theming for it, and like the way in which it looks at this idea of a monster, what makes somebody a monster, what our perception of what a monster is does to the way we view people, the way that, if we have condemned them as being a monster, how we view their actions like that, and who the real monster is here. All of that is like super interesting to me, but still, I also feel like the way in which it is written is quite dry and is not really conducive necessarily to enjoyment. So most of the enjoyment that I get out of Frankenstein is just the idea of this concept being there, this concept being elaborated, and not necessarily fully in love with the execution of that. So I think I read it in English, and I also felt like the writing style wasn't necessarily like the thing that mainly sells it to me. It's definitely that concept and the interesting thematics that run through a story that up until that point I just kind of assumed was just like your run of the mill horror story, because I had never seen sort of like any Frankenstein content up until that point. My only idea about Frankenstein was this image of the monster of Frankenstein, and just this sort of like the visual of it, and the way, like that one scene of like it's alive. So in to some extent just had that concept of the monster and the stereotypical idea of what a monster is in mind. And so reading Frankenstein and seeing what the book was actually about, what the book was actually talking over, was just super fascinating to me. The other July releases for me are The Bright Sword and Bury Your Gaze. I only have Sky on Fire, I think, and Navola on my like radar, but maybe at the beginning of the year I was originally gonna film like a what do you call that? Anticipated releases video, which I never did. I've contemplated still doing it, but we are getting closer and closer to beyond the half of the year that I'm like, is it even worth it for me to still film this? Because half of these books or more have already come out now. No, that's my TBR. That's 2023 releases. 2024 July. Where are you? So The Undermining of Twila and Frank. So this is Heart and Mercy book 2. I did end up enjoying Heart and Mercy book 1, but I don't know whether I would enjoy it enough to me to actually want to continue with that. Brothers and Ghosts by Kwe Pham, a contemporary book about a strange family reunited after family loss, set between Vietnam and the US. And Navola, which is so I only had 3 written down for the month of July. I didn't even have The Sky on Fire, but I think I just thought that The Sky on Fire was coming in a different month, or I just completely forgot about it. It seems like. And for August, is there anything for August? The Ending Fire by Sara El Arifi. That is definitely an anticipated release, but I'm not entirely sure actually that it is still coming out in um, August. I really like Time War. Yeah, I think it's like a hate or like love it or hate it type of book to some extent, just because of that writing style, because it is such a overly flowery writing style in my opinion, or like an overly present writing style, that if that's the type of writing style that you love, you are going to eat that book up. But if you don't like that writing style, then it's just such a huge impediment to the book because it's so present. I have the next few books that I need to read in July selected, but I've already made two piles of follow-up books to pick from. One pile is sci-fi and the other is fantasy. Um, I would say go for fantasy, but I know that you prefer sci-fi, so indulge in sci-fi. I could see myself liking time or hopefully get to it soon. Yeah, it'll depend on the writing style. Like if you're bothered by the writing style early on, then know that this is going to be like that the entire book. But as I indicated, if you find yourself being like, that could really, really work well for you. This is my last coffee of the day. I love cozy cup of coffee while I read. I understand the coziness of it, but I used to think that I was kind of immune to caffeine and that it didn't really bother me. But then I had a few nights recently where I was like, wait, is this because I had coffee? So I'm no longer like taking the risk because not being able to sleep while you want to sleep is the worst thing. Earlier, we were talking of rewatching older TV shows. Last week, I got a making of book for the first season of one of my favorites. Yesterday, I moved the DVD downstairs from my library to rewatch. So, which show are we talking about? Earlier, I wanted to like a friend of mine had shared this sort of like a list of like many TV shows, and then like you only get to choose five. And I was almost tempted to like share my own version of that and just write over the entire thing. Buffy, because there was no Buffy the Vampire Slayer in that list. I was like, how are you not including that? It's an iconic show. One of my favorite shows is Penny Dreadful, and I love how they incorporated Frankenstein there. Never watched it. I had the same issue with Frankenstein. It wasn't like a horror book I imagined it would be. That also didn't help. Yeah, it is very different from what we assume the book to be because of the fact that it's like a staple of horror. But the book is very unlike what we expect a horror to be. I actually read it for when I was studying English and Spanish, so I read it for my literary course as one of the classes that we tackled there. And that might have also had an impact on my appreciation for it. I actually did only give it 3 stars, actually, the moment I read it. But we, of course, discussed it in a lot of detail at that point in time, and it has stuck with me. And so I did like grow a fascination with it, and then finding out more about the circumstances in which Frankenstein was written definitely also helped me kind of appreciate it even more because like the origin myth of the story is also so strong. I particularly want to read the making of books and watch the TV episodes at the same time. Does that qualify as immersive reading? Immersion reading? I feel like it should. Frankenstein is 200 years old. Pro style and reader expectations have changed a ton since then. That can make it difficult to get into. Yeah, definitely. Uh, like I think books that are that old are always already a little bit like more difficult to get into. But I feel like a lot of the times people go into books of that age with the expectation to kind of struggle. And I feel like because of Frankenstein has that sort of like horror cult elements, people don't take that into account enough with their expectations going into it. The same would be for like Dracula. If you're going into Dracula, why? If you're going into Dracula, I think that there's also more of an expectation for it to be what we consider a modern horror story to be. And I feel like Dracula is maybe a little bit more accessible, but I also dislike Dracula more than I didn't dislike Frankenstein. I liked Frankenstein, but I disliked Dracula too. Jesus, when is this day over? Apparently, Navola. I recognize that title. That's by Basigalupi. I really don't know how to pronounce that. If I remember correctly, I only have one of his books, The Wind Up Girl, but I haven't read it yet. I have actually heard some bad things about this author, so I'm hoping that this one doesn't disappoint. I'll be picking one book from the sci-fi pile and another from the fantasy pile, but probably for my August TBR. Yes, it's Basi Galuppi, but unlike his previous novels, it is fantasy in some Renaissance Italy style setting. Yes. But I also highly recommend Wind Up Girl and the Water Knife. I have too many books picked out for July. I'm going to have to bend and twist to make the Gamenightathon prompts fit them. Yeah, yeah. This is the difficulty, especially with the dice roll, I guess. I have many bag. My brain is going too fast from my mouth. I have many big plans with reading series or old classics, just not sure when I'll actually do it yet. Do these reading sprints feel like chatting to people since you get to use your voice? Yeah, I mean, I know all of you guys well enough now that it is just like chatting, and there's not, luckily at this point in time, there's also not any more of that sort of like stress before going on of like, oh, is anybody going to show up? Dracula is also much more modern in style. Yeah, definitely. I'm not entirely sure, but time frame wise, whether it's like how much more modern it is in terms of like the time in which it was written, but it definitely does feel more like plot based, definitely at least also. And the writing indeed is a little bit more modern in it as well. But I just remember Dracula having like the biggest anticlimax. I think that that was my main issue with it. I did read both Frankenstein and Dracula, also Phantom of the Opera. I did enjoy all three, but Dracula has a part two written by Stoker's great grandson or great grandnephew or something like that, which is very very bad. Yeah, I never read that. And Phantom of the Opera, I will say, is also one that I didn't necessarily enjoy all that much, because I just love the musical too much. And then when I'm reading the book, I remember not liking some of like the way in which the villain character is portrayed, because it's like a disabled villain, you know. It's like that stereotype of the disabled person as a villain, which when reading the book I found was quite prominent. I love Dracula. It might have helped that I read it after Frankenstein, and I already loved the idea of Dracula even when I haven't read the book yet. Dracula is 1890, so something like 70 years after Frankenstein. Cool. Let's go into the final sprints. See you guys in 40 minutes, and good luck. Happy reading, guys. Welcome back. So I have just calculated, like, not what I read this sprint, but just what I read all together today so far, and that adds up to about 130 pages. So I'll still finish this chapter after the sprints. I might actually still fit in, or like try to fit in the next one, because that will like make it that I'm over the 200 page mark for um, this book, which would be really nice progress. And it's also like the end of a part, which to some extent might actually be more dangerous, because, like, the end of parts might have like some sort of a cliffhanger ending. So it might actually be safer not to do that. But I'll just see. I'll definitely finish out this part, and it would maybe just be smarter to just leave it at that, because then it'd be like close to 150 pages in any case for today's reading, and then I can try and get to work early tomorrow and be done early. But yeah, I every single time that I try to go to work early, it doesn't end up happening, because I'm just too tired in the morning, and my bed is just too lovely. Uh, 0 pages again, yes. And today you've read a total of 0 pages. How about your streak? Weren't you protecting like your reading streak? Because I have definitely abandoned that quest a few times along the way. A few times I've had a 0 page. So at this point in time, my streak on Storygraph is only 28 days long, for example. But I thought that you were going like really strong with that, right? Or will you just still do some reading later today to maintain it? How can I see that? Where are you? Some people updates. Can I just look for you here in this update thingy? Cause I have some people that I'm following that read so much that they're just like completely overwhelming the uh how do you call that? The overview of updates from friends. So I'll just have to see if you've added. Wait, where am I? So, still catching up with my gardening tube and booktube. It's now properly rainy outside, so I'm about to shut things down for the night. Yeah, here it seems to be okay now. 0 pages for Kitty. I was on the phone with Grandma. Nice. Jeroen had about 150 pages overall today, and that with a 10-hour workday, so decent progress, and walked about 10k. Nice. Uh, read a few pages for the streak once I turn the lights on. Yeah. 15 chapters into Bleak Seasons now. They are very short chapters. So I love short chapters. That's like perfect for, I guess, my attention span, because that way I just like fly through the books much more easily. Whereas if it's a long chapter, I tend to struggle a little bit more with it. Oh wow, Tufty, a 600-day streak. That is amazing. So yeah, definitely need to maintain that streak. I don't know how much I read today exactly. Read 25% of Rouge and 100-ish pages of The Bitter Twins and a couple of pages of Crossroads of Twilight. Don't know the last one. No, I want to click on something. Finished Frankenstein and saw it was for roll 3, so book 2 and 4 needed now. One will be a manga. Ah, nice. That'll be a quick one. I read 22 pages of You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. Nice. By the way, I'm currently halfway into the Poison Song, and it's so good. Yeah, I don't know when the Poison Song will end up being read. You guys didn't vote for it in a poll, but to be fair, I also didn't want you to vote for it in a poll, because I wanted Blood of a Bright Haven and the Labyrinth's Heart more. But I could have, instead of doing the randomized one, I could have done the animals one for the Poison Song. I just wasn't thinking of that when I was making like my decision about that prompt. I really like it so far. Nice. I keep wanting to read more when there are short chapters, but I definitely do like finishing on the end of a chapter too. I often flick forwards to see how many pages are remaining in the chapter. Yeah, I definitely had to do that last night because like I was reading Blood Over Bright Haven in bed last night, and I wanted to get some decent progress in. I wanted to also just like be a little bit further into the book, like understanding a little bit more of the story. So I was reading a little bit more than I probably should have, and so it was already like close to midnight when I still started another chapter, and then I just halfway through was like so damn tired. I was like looking like, okay, how many more pages do I have to need to go through in order to finish on the chapter? Like, oh, 10 more. Okay, hang in there. And I did make it, which of course meant that this morning I was 40 minutes later at work than what I typically like to be. So decisions and their consequences. So this is why I'm saying that it would probably be a smarter move for me to go to sleep after like finishing the chapter of the Labyrinth's Heart. Or maybe I could just like, oh, the next chapter here is actually pretty short in Blood Over Brighthaven. So it's just like some 12 pages, it seems like. So maybe I can just do that. And then I will have read about the same amount of pages in it yesterday as I do today. So a little bit of a nice and steady progress. Because my kind of hope, like these two books will be the second vlog for Gamenightathon, and so I would like to finish them in the weekend or Monday at the latest. And for that, I definitely need steady progress because these are big books. Crossroads of Twilight is Wheel of Time number 10. Ah, okay. How are you actually enjoying Wheel of Time? I have been told that I should just like not read them. I shouldn't do that to myself. But quite a lot of people have been reading it with the read along for it, I feel like, or there are multiple read alongs maybe going on, and sticking with it, which indicates that they're enjoying it, right? I badly want to start some new series, but I also really want to continue some existing series. The eternal debate, I'm constantly starting new series, but I also should be focusing more on finishing some. Even though I have definitely been focusing on it, The Labyrinth's Heart is the concluding novel to one of those series, so that's another one that I can kind of cross off. I've decided to DNF the Burning Kingdom series, so that one can be crossed off. And then The Poison Song will also be finishing a series. Secret Book has very long chapters, only 9 over 430 pages, I think, but it wait, only 9 chapters. Whoa, over 430 pages. But it works. I usually don't like it. It can work, of course, but and I'm not necessarily saying that I like absolutely hate it. It's just that the I notice that short chapters mean that I'm just like flying through a book. 10 more pages when the eyes are drooping into sleep is a long way. Yeah, I wouldn't manage 10 in that situation. 2 or 4, maybe. It really depends. A lot of times I cannot even finish the page I'm on when I'm getting to that stage. But I also did, like, it is definitely an engaging read for me. And there are, like, it's a bigger font, so it's also, like, quicker. Book 2 had 54 chapters with 300 pages, but on page 170, I was only at chapter 10. So guess how short the remainder of the book was. Wait. Wow, well, that indeed means that like all the chapters after that were just like teeny tiny. The Storygraph Streak daily threshold is based on GMT, so I have until 1 a.m. This explains some things because, like, I logged the page where I was in Blood Over Brighthaven yesterday when I went to sleep, but it was already past midnight, and I knew that I didn't have to change the date because I had noticed that if you like log it close enough to midnight, that it still counts as for the previous day. But I didn't realize it was because of it taking the GMT cutoff into consideration. For me, that's just very useful for when I'm reading just beyond midnight. Then I don't have to take that extra step of changing the dates. But yeah, now I know why. It's been overall 3 stars for me. Some scenes get me really engaged, and some I'm bored. Yeah, I really don't know whether I should be. I probably won't start Wheel of Time, but maybe one day. I'll have to look, but I've been better with binge reading and finishing series this year. Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. I have to make that video as well because normally I make that video based on the statistics up until June or June included. Then I make that video of like all the progress I made in series within the year. So that video actually also needs to be made now. I had half a page was a chapter, or at times only 4 sentences in book 2 was a chapter. So very much a lot of almost blank pages. I rushed to log a page before midnight from autumn, just in case. Nighty night, folks. Yes. Good night, everybody. You are welcome. Very happy to have seen you guys here. Great week indeed to everybody. Good night, Judith. Thanks for the sprints. Definitely helps. Still have one episode of Bridgerton left, though. I mean, you are good for keeping them like spread out. I have to do them in like one bulk go. Even then, like I took so long to finish season 1 and the Queen Charlotte one. Season 2 I adored, so I was like immediate. I was speed going through it, and I think with season 3 I just had to lock it. Like I watched the first half of it like 4 days or so before the second half came out, and then I just watched the second half all in one go. Thanks for the sprints. Well, you're welcome, and good nights to all of you. You are welcome. And yes, season 2 is the best. But so yeah, with that, I'm gonna end the sprints tonight. I said last week that I wanted to do some as well over on Discord, and that didn't end up happening. And this Friday, I originally had no plans, but now I do have plans, and on Saturday I also have plans. So who knows whether it will end up happening. So if it ends up happening, it will be more likely that it's going to be like a Thursday evening, for example. But so yeah, you'll see that popping up if that ends up happening. But so yeah, see you guys next week in any case. And as indicated earlier, the second star prompt is going to be dropping somewhere this week. So you also have that to look forward to. But so yeah, with that, I wish you guys a nice evening and a good sleep for those who are going to bed now, which more or less I will be doing now. But so yeah, have a good